There are literally hundreds of stoves and pots available to choose from for cooking on a backpacking trip. And for the vast majority of us, all we are ever really doing is boiling water. But some of us are cooking more involved meals, and there are a whole list of options available around that approach as well. But if we're focusing specifically on simple cooking and boiling water, does it even really matter what stove and pot you choose to use? Now for me, the secret to a great backpacking cook kit revolves around three key things: reliability, value, and simplicity or ease of use. The two items working together to make the simple task of boiling water not cumbersome to do at all when you're out on a backpacking trip. So whatever stove and pot combination I am using just needs to accomplish those three things and do it well together. Otherwise, I don't think it really matters what stove and pot combination you choose, because they are so similar and they accomplish the same thing, which the vast majority of us are just boiling water or doing very, very simple cooking in our pots. And canister stoves are all very similar with subtle differences, and pots are all very similar as well. But today I do want to talk about four of my favorite and just kind of go-to cooking kits that I use for my backpacking that serve slightly different purposes based on the season as well as what I'm trying to accomplish with my cooking. Okay, let's start with what I think is one of the most classic combinations, and that is going to be the Tokes 550 milliliter titanium pot with the BRS 3000T stove. This is a really lightweight, great value option that is also very reliable. This is a stove that is proven out on the trail, and for the $16 or so that you pay for this, it's incredibly lightweight. It is not the most wind efficient stove. It just doesn't have any kind of wind break or anything on it, so you're gonna use more fuel that way. But for the price you pay for how lightweight and compact it is, and then pairing it with the Tokes 550 milliliter, this is an awesome, just classic, super lightweight, low size, but big enough capacity for boiling enough water for pretty much any freeze-dried meal that you would be eating out on the trail, as well as being able to quickly put together a hot drink like coffee or tea or hot cocoa and that kind of thing. This is an amazing value for under $50 for the two as a combination. But then if you want just a little bit more capacity, the next classic pot is the Tokes 750 milliliter, also paired with the BRS 3000T stove. This is still a great combination, and the only difference between the 750 and the 550 is the amount of volume that you have with this, because they are the same diameter. So your 100-gram canister fits inside of both of these, and the stove will fit inside with it as well. Now it's a little bit more tricky with the 550. You have to turn the canister upside down and use the bowl or concave shape of the canister to put the stove into. But outside of that, everything fits together really nice. I then have space for my Bic lighter that I'm going to put in there, because this stove does require you to use a lighter or some kind of striker. Oh no, this canister is out of fuel. Bummer. Awkward. Anyway, you do have to have a lighter for you to light the BRS stove, because it doesn't have a piezo igniter. But that combination is just really classic, very effective in boiling water in a fairly quick time. It just does not have great wind efficiency or protection against the wind. And so that's the one big downside to the BRS stove, but that is just a great way to go. Then, if we're talking about alcohol stoves, which alcohol stoves are really interesting to me. I love alcohol stoves. I love what they can be as a really quiet option in the backcountry, and the ability to get fuel pretty much anywhere you want, and to portion out the exact amount of fuel that you want, and just a lot of other simple benefits of also being very lightweight. But I find sometimes alcohol stoves are a little bit finicky, or there's just too many things going on to be able to boil water. And so I have kind of been on the search to find a really effective and good alcohol stove kit that actually gets me excited to use it. and that is the X-Boil kit for the 550 milliliter pot, as well as it'll work for the 750. But this is awesome because this all fits inside of the Tokes 550 milliliter, and I'll show you that. So you've got your simple alcohol burner here that has some material on the inside. I'm sorry, I forget what it's called, but it's like basically weighs nothing. So simple. But this just unscrews, and then you have these 3 little arms that these connect to your windscreen right here. They're just like a little L shape with a space for it to connect onto your metal windscreen, and that becomes your platform for your pot. So it also makes for the proper distance or height between the bottom of the pot and the top of the stove. So I put those together, drop that down in there, and then I take my alcohol. It's cold out here. Fingers don't want to work. So we'll drop that like that, and then that just goes on top, and it creates this really compact, small kit for you to do all of your cooking and boiling water and such and not have to overcomplicate it. It's also going to be very stable and effective, and it's a good value as well, and it fits within that checkbox of being reliable also. I don't have any water in here, so I got to be careful with scorching the bottom of my pot. But then what I'm able to do here is just break everything down. I'll take the little arms off here and set them inside of the alcohol burner, and that gives it a good clean place to keep everything contained. And then this just comes apart with these little disc circles things, little notches. And then I just roll that a little bit tighter, drop it down inside of my pot, and it is the perfect height for me to put everything in there. My lid goes down on top of it, and there you go. I have a super compact, very lightweight, and simple, easy to use alcohol burner system for me to boil water in the backcountry. I think of all of the alcohol stove burners and such that I've used, this is the one that gets me the most excited. I feel like it's the easiest to use, and it's not a bunch of finicky little things to put together, and it's super stable, and it all contains inside of the pot. That's super cool. Now, next up here is a stove and pot combination that I used for the vast majority of my trips in 2024 and quickly became one of my favorite cook kits of all time for all of the backpacking that I've ever done. This is the Fire Maple Green Peak stove paired with the Fire Maple Petrol G3 heat exchanger pot. This is a 600 milliliter capacity heat exchanger aluminum pot that is an incredible price point. It's very well built, and it has just been an awesome experience. I think that this was one of the most popular cooking items bought in 2024 because it is that good. Now, this is the only aluminum pot that we're going to talk about today. Everything else is titanium, but it's still very lightweight, and it is a great solo option as well because most of your heat exchanger pots are in the 0.8 liters to larger, like 1 liter size capacity, which for solo backpacking is a lot of space and a massive amount of capacity for cooking for yourself or boiling water for yourself. So this gives you enough capacity for your freeze-dried meal, plus a little bit more to do any kind of cleanup or to have a hot drink that you are planning for your breakfast or whatever you want to do. And it is compact. Everything fits together inside of the pot. You have a good lid that has strainer holes on it, and the handle flips over top and just contains everything together. This is a really good system, but the biggest benefit to it is how wind efficient it is and how effective it is in achieving a quick boil time. Now, I understand that cooking and boiling water in the backcountry does not need to be like a Formula One race, and you have to have 2 minutes or less on your boil time for it to be a good cooking system. Like, I'm okay if it takes 3 minutes. I'm okay if it takes 4 minutes. but it is also very efficient in its fuel usage and just really good against wind because the heat exchanger around the burner does provide some good wind protection. But you'll notice if you haven't seen this pot before, which maybe you're living under a rock in that case, but this has 3 cutouts around the heat exchanger that pair perfectly with the pot supports of the stove at a 120 degree angle. So I drop that on there and it just makes it so that the burner is then closer to the bottom of the pot, spreads out into those heat exchanger fins better, and creates a more efficient, just faster boil time because you're transferring that heat better, which aluminum transfers heat better than titanium anyway. So it's a really, really good option. And I just love this pot with this stove because it also does have a piezo igniter and it just works. First or second click every time. Good size burner. This thing has been fantastic. Now, recently, I'm going to talk about this as well, is a lot of people requested a slightly larger heat exchanger pot than the G3. So Fire Maple created the G2 version, which is a wider diameter, which gives you more surface area for the burner to spread the heat across. And this is a 750 milliliter capacity, and it will fit your larger canister, the larger size than the 100 gram inside of here, and then you can put your stove in as well. But it still has the same flip handle, same construction and everything. But the bottom of the opening for the pot is a bit larger. Just a really, really good cook kit and combination system for you to use to very quickly boil water using group settings and to have, like, I don't know, just a good experience of cooking out in the backcountry with this. Now, the last cook kit we'll talk about today is the Keith Titanium 1000 milliliter lunchbox paired with the Soto Windmaster stove. This stove is amazing. It's classic. It's been around for a long time. It's incredibly reliable. And for what you get out of this, it is a good value, even though it is the most expensive stove that we'll talk about today. I've had this thing for years and it just will not die, keeps going, and it's amazing. It has a pressure regulator. The build quality of it is incredible. And the option of using the Triflex or the 4Flex attachment for the top makes it versatile that way. It's just an amazing stove that just is the Energizer Bunny. It goes and goes and goes and goes, and it's amazing. I just love this stove to death. Piezo igniter continues to work. The wind efficiency of it with the concave burner, and you guys, the Windmaster is amazing. I love this stove. But paired with the Keith Titanium 1000 milliliter lunchbox is kind of an interesting pairing because this is something that I don't think is very popular, but here's what I like about this as a pot option. For cold weather, notice I'm pairing this with a stove that has a pressure regulator. That's important because when I'm out in the winter and just in cold weather conditions, I want something that's going to be more effective in those cold conditions to give me an effective burn in those kinds of settings. But then having something that has a good wide base that is a higher capacity for potentially melting snow and such makes this a really good option. And I like it better from the sense of doing more cooking inside of the pot as opposed to just boiling water and pouring it into a bag. This is going to boil and cook noodles really well. I could do rice in here. I could do just other things that are not freeze-dried meals in a bag like Mountain House or Peak or Pinnacle and such. And I could do like Northsides in here. This is just a good option for me to have a little bit more versatility in my cooking. I've got a really good lid that just goes down nice and tight, and it's not going to be like watertight or anything, but I could rehydrate something overnight in this and put a rock on it like hash browns or something of that nature that gives me protection against rodents and such, but I can rehydrate overnight in this. And I just think that this is a really neat option. You've got kind of that classic double folding handle design that you see, And it's very stable as well, and it's balanced well in its weight. Sometimes your handle is so much heavier than the pot itself that it just likes to fall down when you don't have any liquid in it. The Keith titanium products are built incredibly well. This is easy to clean because it's a nice bowl shape as opposed to having kind of like harder corners on it. It's a really, really cool kit. Everything fits inside of it. My stove, my canister, just drop that in there. My cook kit, inside of that, all contained. Love it. So, so nice. So what of these options piques your interest the most? What do you think would be the most effective for your backpacking needs and the goals that you have and kind of settings and such that you find yourself in? Like, what excites you from what I've shared here today? Or let me know down in the comments of what your go-to cook system is. Like I said, there are hundreds and hundreds of pots and stoves and ways to combine all of them to create something that is very unique to yourself and your personal goals and needs for being out on your trips. But I want to thank you guys for watching today. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not. Hope you have an awesome day. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.